Turn to the teacher. Turn to the teacher. Turn to the teacher. Turn to the teacher. Turn to the teacher.
And welcome back. I'm Mike with the Turntable Teachers. Class is officially back in session, and we are here for another guest speaker episode, and I am so excited for this one. This one's been a little bit of a long time coming for you guys. We have Massachusetts artist who is about to be a Florida-based artist. Shout out Ed from Brews Beats and Eats. You better get this guy on the show and promote him like crazy. I know we still will be up here. But I welcome Virgil to the show today. I am so excited to do this one. It's going to be great. How are you doing today, my man?
Doing great, man. Excited for the move, like you said. Excited with the album just dropping, so everything's good. Everything's onward and upward right now.
Absolutely. I know we got a lot to talk about tonight. I'm so stoked. So this is a good one. And I guess not really a topic that we had at the start, but congratulations. So you got a new job in Florida. You'll be moving to Miami. So tell them, I know you're a teacher, and that's kind of the point. So tell me a little bit about your new job and the move.
Yeah, so I'm going to be teaching kindergarten, which is
right on.
Really the age group that I prefer. I also coach soccer here, so I know you're involved in basketball too, but being able to work with kids on multiple levels is great. But also, I don't know, I think that perspective in general is just like a cool way to approach the world as a teacher. So even when it comes to like the music stuff, if someone hits me up, I'm always gonna, give them a hand, give them help if they can, and be more of that nurturing personality. I think the music industry in general tends to be so competitive, and I don't really buy into that shit. Like I'll help out anyone that I can if there's anything I can do. Like don't hit me up now expecting me to put you on. I don't know anybody, but if you need something, I'm here, and I'll always be there to talk it out. And I think that comes from just that kind of personality that it takes to be a teacher. Like I said, giving back to my community and like being part of the Boston music community in general for the time I was here. I think that I've actually met a couple of musicians in the area who are teachers or involved in education, and it's nice to just have that bond throughout everything. And also, like I said, I think you as a teacher, you're naturally someone who's inclined to give back. And that's something that I've always tried to do in my time here is be supportive of the artists that I mean, whether I know them or not. I always like discovering new music, and I think that's another part where there's a connection. So much of teaching is about, especially in early childhood education, is about discovering and going on that journey with the child for them to learn. And I try to take that mentality with the music too, and that at any time you send me some new music, or one of my homies, or someone says check out this Boston artist, or I'm at a show and I meet someone, I don't just say I'm going to listen to your music, follow them on Instagram, and then unfollow them in a couple of weeks. I'll always give them an ear. I'll hit up their SoundCloud, Spotify, whatever, and actually listen to their music.
I really like that, dude. I like that sentiment a ton. And it's interesting that, you're obviously going to teach kindergarten, and I'm on the opposite spectrum in the high school level. So I think, regardless of what education looks like, I think we can agree that it's obviously super important. It's super important in the music world, no doubt. Mm-hmm. And I think like you're saying, it takes a lot to be an artist, not only be an artist, but, get yourself out there and try to like really expand and gain an audience and things like that. And that's not an easy thing if you have to, you have to go out and make those connections and make those instances. Mm-hmm. So like you understand that. And I actually respect that a ton, that, you're not somebody that's just like, oh yeah, okay, like I'll just follow you. And, that's really it. Like you actually take the time to listen. I mean, that's, it's funny. Maybe it's just kind of the teacher in us to kind of like do that. Cause I mean, that's like, yeah. I know I'm not an artist, but that's really like, our MO is to, really sit down with the music and actually dissect it, listen to it, like, and really give it its due diligence. And I think there's just so many people making music,
Uh-huh.
part of the problem too,
Yeah.
of the oversaturation. But I feel like people, for like them to stay, or to feel like they're staying relevant, they have to like, drop music all the time, and so that way like people don't forget about them. So I find the strategy of actually like, not only marketing yourself but putting music out there is definitely different than it was, I think, 10, 20 years ago.
I agree. And I don't know if we had this conversation in the past, but I think there's something to be said for artists in general, both mainstream and underground, who pace themselves. So I think if you're oversaturating your music, if you're putting too much music out there, there's such a thing of that still. To this day, like the other day when J. Cole released those 2 tracks, I hit you up and I was like, dude, J. Cole.
Yeah.
And that there's something to be said with I think like J. Cole's pacing and some similar artists, Kendrick's pacing. You're still excited every time there's a release, and I think there's something great about that, rather than just seeing how much you can get out there and trying to make it that way. I kind of, I guess I'm from the old school that way, where I'd prefer to see maybe an album a year and a couple singles every year, and I think that's a palatable amount of work from an artist for a year, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, I was even going to mention that to you because Timelines, which just released at the time we're recording this, just released last week.
Yeah.
And and this is your debut album, but I feel like you've been making music, at least in the conversations we've had. Like I feel like you've been making music for a long time. So was that something that you wanted? Like you wanted your debut album to be like, I don't want to say perfect, because that's never like, that's not like a
Mhm.
to me, I don't think perfect's ever like quite achievable. But
No.
in the sense, like, were you looking to, in that sense, kind of pace yourself with Timelines and get it in a place where you felt like it was ready to actually, be put out to the masses?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of songs on that album that are over 4 years old. So
Oh,
there's
no way.
there's songs that were recorded 3 or 4 years ago at least. There's I'd say the majority of it was written this winter and during COVID. I don't think it's so much for me that it was about pacing myself. It was more about feeling like a mature enough artist at this point, or I've reached where I want to be as an artist, and I think that I can put out a project that's reflective of who I want to be as an artist. And I don't think I was at that point until this year. So I think I was ready to put out singles before. And hand in hand with that, if you're thinking about putting out an album, anyone, it's a process. It's not, especially if you're gonna do it right. Like, it's not something to just throw together and then put out. That's just not really how I do things anyway. It was a long time coming, so it's good to finally get it out there.
Bro, I think the album is absolutely beautiful. It's amazing. It's so well crafted. Any like old, not even just old school hip hop fans, if you're just like a music fan, there's probably something on this album for you. I actually have the physical copy that you gave me last
There
week at
you
the
go.
party. So
Yeah,
I ended up copying or receiving a physical copy, but you guys can obviously stream it anywhere right now. It's on SoundCloud, Spotify, Apple Music, basically anywhere where you get your music. But so yeah, I want to talk a little bit more about Timelines because
sure.
one, I just enjoy the craftsmanship of it and sort of the really the angle you took at it, which I thought was a little bit unique, especially for these days. So I want to hear like your process and your vision, what you really had for Timelines, like as an actual project.
What I wanted to do was provide a whole spectrum of tracks, some that embodied me personally, and some that were more reflective of people that I know or have experienced or haven't had the voice to be able to speak the stories that they've told me. And that's kind of that's where the title of the album came from too. Is there's all these different points along your personal timeline, whether they're contributed from other people or yourself, that make you into the person that you are. And I tried to give that perspective, so to speak, from not only myself but from people who are important to me, or people who influence my lives, or people who just had interesting stories to tell.
Dude, I think that's like the really unique thing, because I feel like with artists, not always, I shouldn't like blanket statement this, but there are a lot of artists, they tend to rap or sing or whatever it is. Like it comes from a place, like whether it's introspection or it really comes somewhere from within. But and there are moments on this album that do come from within with you, but then you brought in a lot of different perspectives in that, like
Mhm.
whoever you were rapping in the perspective of being like a new father, and trying to like not you personally because you're not a father, but like you were rapping as someone that had a kid and is kind of struggling to keep their old social crowd, you know what I mean, and like kind of navigating how you can when you have kids, it's just kind of becomes one of those things where it's difficult to sort of have your, I don't want to say your old life, but the life that you had when you didn't have kids, because it's like a whole different
Mhm.
responsibility. So I loved that. Like that's just one moment on the album where you get into a different perspective. But for you, like what did it kind of mean for you to be able to put other people's stories out there, which is again like a very different way of looking at a project. And I think the name of the project too, and the way you just explained it, like it totally works. But
Uh-huh.
um
Yeah, no, I think there's some songs that are super personal to me on this. Like for example, Timelines is one of them that was written from first person from me. So that one is from my perspective. What's the difference? I think really gets into like mental health issues and stuff that I've struggled with before in that context, and also like how that plays against loving and losing someone that you love. Um, but then you get into songs like Stargazer, Gray Matter, and uh, you really start looking at that uh, a different perspective. So either stories that have been shared with me. Stargazer talks about a kid whose parents divorced and his life kind of fell apart after that, and trying to fight his way through that and become the man that he wants to be. And my parents are together and very happily married. So that story's not about me. I'm gonna keep the names to myself, of course, but there's some people have told me great stories across the years, and I've always tried to listen to them. And I've books on books like this that are full of notes about stories that I heard, things that I heard, and I always go back and read them and see what's interesting to me. So I've always tried to write my rap through the perspective of a poet. And it's been hard, I think, to get to the point where my music was good enough to do the poetry justice. So that's one of the things that I struggled with the most is my music was never where I wanted it to be. I knew the words were good, but I needed to get the music caught up.
So one quick thing before I pivot here, because I like something you just said, but I find because you're kind of talking about listening, and listening actually, believe it or not, like as educators, I'm sure I mean, maybe a little bit more so with me and the way I evaluate my students, but we see like in especially in Massachusetts and in the curriculum frameworks, like speaking and listening is actually a skill that is really rooted in the curriculum, and is really like a framework for for education. And not a lot of people, when they think about education, they think about being a good listener and really what that means. I think you try to teach it at a young age, like with kids that you teach, but it's really essential with like the kids that I teach, because if they're not able to listen and bring in different perspectives, kind of like what you're saying, there's a sense where like you might not learn as much as you can, because you can learn from so many different people just by listening. And especially during the day and age that we're in, I think listening is like a huge part of education, and people starting to understand that a little bit. But it tends to not be like something that's always, or that people that aren't in education, they don't really see it as like a
Yeah.
vital thing, but really is. So
Definitely, and I think that's something that a lot of people have a hard time with, just in general, is listening and actually hearing someone's story and caring enough to show that person appreciation. And I think especially in the rap game, you see artists who they want it to be all about them. They want the story to be all about them, like you said, and they want to talk their shit, and that's fine. And that's why my bonus track, I think, is a pretty funny song. Like to end it all is like after taking all this time to give the people perspective and all these different points of view, I hit them with the song called Hubris. That's all about myself and bragging about myself as a rapper, which is really not what I stand for, but I like the irony of it at the end. So
No, I definitely mess with that too. That's one of like definitely your that and Stargazer are like your hard hitters. I feel like
yeah,
those are the tracks. Or no, was it Garnet that was one of the
Garnet,
hard,
yeah, Garnet
Garnet
bangs.
was Garnet and Hubris. Those were like the hard hitting
Yeah,
ones. I personally liked Hubris. I thought that was like because it was different for you. Like you're saying, you were like talking your shit. You know, it's very interesting to see that side of you still that you can still. Again, this was supposed to be more of a conscious thing. It was supposed to be more of like a collective of different experiences you've had and people you've met, and I love all of that. But
yeah,
you got to have that one track that people
yeah.
can bump in the whip and turn some heads. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I honestly, I think I fuck with the song Criminy from that perspective the most because I think it does a little bit of both. Like I think Criminy bangs a little bit, but it's another song that's really ironic. That song, when I was writing it, what I was trying to write about is when you're when you're a single guy and you're like going into these different experiences and you think that you're getting like eyes from a girl or you think that there's something there, it's really just your imagination or it's your mind playing tricks on you. And
Yeah,
I think like I don't know, I get a kick out of that song.
yeah. We've all been there, right? As like you read the room wrong. You're like,
Yeah,
you tell your boy you're with, you're like, oh, I think that girl over there, like,
yeah,
he's like, oh yeah, sure. Go over there, and it's just not the case, right?
yeah,
You got to take that ego check, that that
yeah.
humble piece of that humble pie, right?
Yeah,
As
so that song, so the album starts. That's the first song after the intro. The album starts with the song about humble pie, and it ends with the song titled Hubris. So that's also the progression there too.
yeah, no, for sure to get to that point to be able to
Yeah,
talk your shit, you got to take some lumps. You got to be told
yeah,
no a few times to really kind of gain some perspective. No, dude, I'm with the whole thing. I mean, I'm loving it. People in the scene are loving it. I mean, I've had, some other artists that we've talked about, Washi being one of them, being, reaching out to me, being like, that Virgil album is some shit. Like that's some medicine, some good stuff for the noggin, he was saying, or
yeah, yeah,
some food for thought, which I was like, no, I agree. It's amazing. I find it to be a really great piece of really lyrical poetry. And for you, I know you're a big fan of literature and poetry.
uh-huh.
So I know that, again, I know the teaching aspect doesn't really fit a ton with the actual music creation, but I'd be
Yeah,
hard pressed to imagine that the poetry and literature piece does not. So in
yeah.
terms of storytelling, lyricism, and all that. So talk to me about your love for poetry and your love for literature, how it maybe impacts your creative and writing process in the way that does it help with rhythm? Does it help more with lyrics? Maybe a mix of both. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Definitely. So my degree's in creative writing, so that's what I studied in college, and it was with a focus on poetry.
Attaboy.
So I
English
was, I
over
was,
here. Present.
yeah, we got the creative writers here.
I love
Um,
it. No,
but
no, I am not a creative writer at all. That's my so my mother's the creative one. Like she
got
writes
you.
poetry and she's a good writer. I am all analytics, dude. Like I
Uh,
can't. Yeah, have me make up a story. It's not gonna sound great.
I
So,
got you.
but I can
Yeah,
analyze the shit for days.
it's
Can't.
it's funny. It's funny because you talk to me about analysis and I start falling asleep. So it's everyone's got their avenue or their
Absolutely.
strength. So you just
Sorry
gotta
to cut
fit
you off,
that.
but
But yeah, for me the biggest thing was um, I started publishing poetry out of school, and it was hard for me because it felt like this is what I got to do. Like I got to push for this. I really got to do this. You study creative writing and you're not publishing poetry right now. And like I published a couple poems in magazines, but I was just listening. I was listening to Bob Dylan one day, I think, and I was like, um, I have too much love for music, and I used to sing, and like I have all these this love for hip hop, and I was always obsessed with hip hop. and it's a shame to waste this and to not at least give this a try. And when I started, I really sucked, and I think a lot of people are there. Um, but like I said before, even when I was terrible, even when I wouldn't let my neighbors hear my music or my roommates hear my music, my words were good, and I knew that. Like I knew I had the words. That's always been the case. I loved what I was saying. I loved the stories I was telling even then. But it was just about finding my voice and being able learning to record. There's so much that goes into that. But that all started with my love for literature. And I think even when I was publishing poetry, my professors used to tell me, you write some of the most musical poetry that we've ever heard, like uh, alliteration, consonants, like all those literary terms that contribute to poetry that where sound is the focus. That was my strength as a poet. So it seemed only natural that I'd take what my strength was in sound and put that to a medium that's about sound.
And I think it, like I said, in your album, in not just your album, but all your music, it really comes out. You're as a writer, as a poet, like I think you like as a. I mean, I know you haven't performed a ton, but I would be hard pressed to imagine like you could do some really good slam poetry. I feel like, you know what I mean. That would be like something that would be right up your alley with maybe a little bit of, you know, a little bit of instrumental music behind you, but that really would, you feel like you wouldn't be skipping a beat there, no pun intended. But I really like, no,
I should punch you through the screen for that.
dude, if you ask any of my students, right, I drop one of these like once a week. You know what I mean? Like it's one of those things where it's like, all right, like, you know,
Nah, I'm with it. I love a good dad joke. Keep the puns coming.
oh, that's something that I've dropped a few on this show. Our old listeners know, they're like, oh, it's just another bad joke. Our listeners, you know, I love you guys. Thank you all for your support, despite my the few times I can get a little cringy there, but but no, man, like the poetry thing, like that's kind of how for me, like I got into hip hop in a sense, because I liked literature a lot growing up too, and really the only piece of literature as I was in middle school and high school that, well, I shouldn't say for all of high school, but a majority of high school that I liked was poetry because it was a little bit more quick hitting. I felt like that the like imagery was really like big for me. Like I love imagery. I think that's something you do really well in your music, but is create images and create like, you know, like mental pictures for people with your words. And that's really like the, you know, the testament of any good writer, and no matter whether it's songwriting or, you know, poetic or, you know, a creative piece or whatever it is. Yeah. But in terms of, you know, hip hop in general, like I saw a lot of connections with, you know, like poetry and hip hop. And really enough, when I was in middle school, I remember we did Midsummer Night's Dream. Mm. And at the time, Lil Wayne was like huge. Like, he was the big one, right? And a lot of times, there's stuff out there that Wayne used to rap in like iambic pentameter, and he used to take Shakespeare's like rhythm. And ever since I heard that, I was like, huh, like that's pretty cool. Like that.
I'm calling bullshit on that because he didn't even write any of his own shit. Like he didn't write anything. He just stepped up to the mic, which is why Lil Wayne's so amazing.
I know.
Lil Wayne just brain dumped everything, and he made like 5,000 amazing songs. It's like I've never understood Lil Wayne's career.
Yeah,
like,
no, I mean, yeah.
I also feel bad for him because he came around during a time when no artist was really doing that, and he just pushed out material nonstop.
Yeah, I mean, at that time, I'm trying to think of somebody that was putting out as much content as Wayne at that, because he was. I'm not even talking about commercial albums. I'm talking we're all the mixtapes, like all the droughts. I think 7 of them or something crazy like that.
The drought is over. The drought is 2. The drought is over. Just on and on and on.
On and on with the drought, and then there was just so many different series that he had going on. He had like the Free Wheezy series. He had oh my god, what's the other one I'm forgetting?
The Carters.
Well, the Carters. No, I'm talking about the mixtapes though. Like,
Gotcha. I think the Carter. No, the Carter was always an album. I thought maybe the first Carter. Yeah.
Yeah, those were definitely albums. What was it one of his big mixtape runs that he did? I'm completely blanking on like one of the most popular ones. Sorry for the waits.
Yeah.
To look it up and then it hit me. Yeah, so I mean, he just was pumping out content.
Yeah.
But anyway, so
yeah. Sorry, we went on a little Wheezy tangent there, but that's all right.
Dude, love Wayne. I mean, actually, I talked a little Wayne with Mako actually on the last.
Yeah.
Either way,
that's the other thing is like anyone who was around during that time has a good thing to say about Wayne. No one talks shit on Wayne. There's not really anything to say.
No.
Except for Birdman's bullshit. Like.
Yeah.
But that's not really his fault.
So in terms of his studio albums, I'll keep it to like the Carters, let's say.
Yeah.
Which one of the Carters is your favorite?
I think the Carter 3, man. Like the Carter 3 is one of the most complete like punchline rap albums I've ever heard. Like
it's amazing.
While I love my lyrical and like poetic stuff, I still lose my shit for a good punchline, and I don't know too many artists who just like throw them at you like Wayne would. Like,
that album
is nonstop.
Although I will say this though, there were some really like touching moments on that album. Like Time on Hands, like what he did for it was basically like the it was kind of
a cool sample too.
What's that?
That's a cool sample too.
Oh, the Time on Hands one with oh my god, yeah. What sample, do you know what sample that was? I
forget, but it's cool.
Yeah, Robin Thicke. I mean, he did a good job on that hook from what I'm remembering. And yeah, no, like a song like that had some actual weight to it. You know what I mean? But then you're right. He had the songs like, Get Money or with
Phone Home.
Phone Home. That was always my jam. That was always my least favorite song.
Yeah, really. It was the hook was annoying, but he still goes off. He snaps on everything.
Dude, I know. Like he just was one of he was in his bag, so to speak. That's that's the term today. But
I also think the thing that an artist can I always look at artists as like an opportunity for a toolbox when I'm not just trying to enjoy them. So like what can you take from Lil Wayne that's amazing? And it's having a kind of weird voice and making it work for you, like owning that shit.
Right.
And
well, Chance the Rapper, I think, did that a little bit too.
Yeah, exactly. But it's really, I think, for the lesson to be learned from Lil Wayne is you can embrace your voice even if it's not perfect. And there's a million artists you could do that from. If you want to talk like, I saw Mako talking about Neil Young. He's a good example of that, and so is Bob Dylan. Like artists who can't really sing, but they can really write and they can really play. And I think, I don't know, that's something that I think speaks to anybody really giving this a go. You can make your voice unique and you can make it what you want it to be.
Yeah, I feel like with Bob Dylan in particular, that's always the one thing that people say that's negative about him. That he didn't have like a standout voice. He was probably one of the best writers of all time. Or is I mean, he's definitely in that conversation.
I personally think he has an excellent voice, but I understand that perspective. It's not your run of the mill like he's got pipe. You wouldn't say Bob Dylan has pipes, but he knows how to use his voice, and he's taught me so much about like inflection. So bending your words or making words rhyme that don't rhyme, or line breaks. Like Bob Dylan's a great person to study as a hip hop artist.
Well, a lot of people talk about that too, that because of the way, like the rhythm that he used, it's actually fits really nicely with hip hop.
Yeah. I'd say it's almost a precursor to hip hop. I'm not saying by any means that Bob Dylan's involved in the creation of hip hop or the birth of hip hop, but like there's a lot of parallels you can draw for sure.
So you're telling me that Shakespeare and Bob Dylan are not the fathers?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Ask Wheezy.
Wheezy would probably tell you otherwise. Yeah. But
I'd pay to see him say that with a cup of syrup in his hand.
Yeah, that's probably the only time he would say it, right? Where when it would actually somewhat make sense in that regard. No, but it's interesting that some of these guys, they're they really made a name for what they did, you know, despite some of the flaws. So it's like you don't have to have it all. You don't have to have like the chart topping voice with the right, like you can work your way around certain things. I feel like as an artist, you don't have to have it all
Yeah.
necessarily.
And
I
a
mean,
lot of it comes down to taste too at the end of the day.
that's true
So
too.
so
Exactly.
like you were talking about going back to Dylan, like a lot of people don't like his voice. I fucking love his voice. I could listen to Bob Dylan sing all day. But you take that to hip hop artists, like for example, you mentioned Chance. I freaking love Chance's voice. Like, I think Chance's voice is so unique and wonderful, and he knows just how to use it. His cadence is beautiful. He can rap. He can sing. I I love Chance's voice personally.
Oh, me too.
Yeah,
I've
yeah,
always,
no,
I've
but
always chance.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So I don't know where people. Another good example of that is Mac. Like he spent his whole career trying to develop his singing voice, and by the
Right.
end he got pretty damn good at it. He could actually sing. Um, but he was never like a talented singer. He just he knew
No.
how to use his voice.
No, I mean if you go back in Mac's discography, right? If you go to like a Blue Slide Park and you hear him
Yeah,
try to sing on that, person, I think like it was interesting because I loved Kids,
yeah,
and with Mac, it seemed like, you know, Blue Slide Park was such like like
step
le-
back.
yeah, like a
Yeah,
huge step back for him. It
I
didn't
agree.
feel right, and he tried to get too poppy with it, and it just didn't work.
Hmm.
By the time, like I mean, we're talking like Swimming, and even before that, like Divine Feminine, and
Yeah,
for a little bit Good AM, but mostly on Divine Feminine um and Swimming, and then obviously on the new one this year,
yeah,
Circle. But you're right, he totally found his singing sound. Like
yeah.
that was what he was really missing for a lot of his career. Like that's what you
Mhm.
could tell he was trying to go in that direction for a little while, like especially after watching movies. That was really like he
Yeah,
tried to pivot towards like a more, I don't say musical sound, but yeah, it was more like rooted in instrumentation
yeah.
and
You get a lot of jazz and soul and neo soul in there at the end, and I love that shit.
oh,
Um,
same, like, up
and
my alley.
also,
Yeah,
Mac reminds me of something that I was talking to about with a friend the other day, and that I can't think of too many artists who had a straight line like this, where each like an exponential line of growth. I don't think there are too many who did, like where each album's a little bit better than the next. I think there's ebbs and flows if you go from album to album on pretty much every artist.
for sure.
I was trying to think of that the other day. Can you think of anyone who's every single album got a little bit better?
The
All
only
right,
person
I'm turning the tables.
you wouldn't be the first one, trust me. Mako did it to me. I've had some other people in the past do it to me. I think that's actually the name of the episode that I did with Ed for Bruce Beats and Eats. I think
Turning the table.
Table's turn or whatever.
That's pretty creative. Did Ed come up with that, or did you?
Oh, I'll give that.
Yeah.
Ed definitely
I
did.
think
Yeah.
Ed might be the king of dad jokes. Like we gotta dig in on that a little bit, but I could see him killing those.
Why do you think he and I get along so well? Why do you think? Right?
Yeah,
I know Ed's listening to this episode at some point when this comes out. So big
sure.
shout out to him
Yeah,
and Bruce
shout out
Beats.
to Ed. Excited
Absolutely.
to see him soon.
Oh, I know. I can't wait to when Corona's over. I can't wait to come
Yeah.
visit you in Florida and then
Right.
finally meet that man in person. That's going to be the
Yeah.
perfect way to do it. But to answer your question, and you've actually given me some time to think about this, so thank you. The only artist I could have thought of at the moment, just based on looking at behind me,
Yeah.
would have been Denzel Curry, except
Okay.
Zoo until Taboo.
Sure.
I would have said for sure Denzel. Like he got better and better and better with the releases. I didn't think Zoo was better than Taboo though, so that kind of takes it out. I was thinking Tyler the Creator, one, because that's what a lot of people, in especially hip hop, that's like kind of the mainstream thing to say. Like, oh, Tyler's the most progressed artist, you know, or whatever you
Yeah.
want to call it. He's shown the most progression.
Uh-huh.
And while that is true, there's a lot of people that, I mean, not everybody feels this way. I know Odin's TV and we did an episode where we did Tyler Creator's Cherry Bomb, and that's literally the one smack in the middle where people were like, I don't know, you know.
I'm truthfully not a huge Tyler fan. I mean, like I'm familiar with them, but it's not for me.
Did you ever listen to Flower Boy?
Yeah, I like it.
You like? Okay, I was about to say that. I feel like
Yeah.
if out of any Tyler album, that would probably
Uh,
would be, knowing your taste, that would probably be your favorite.
yeah.
But
The only artist that I could think of that answers that question in a hip hop sense lately, anyway, is YBN Cordae. But
he
he's
not a lot to
yeah,
look at with that.
exactly. If he's got two mixtapes. I don't know if you ever heard the mixtapes, but they're preludes to Lost Boy. They were before he was signed even, and they're both fire. But every single one of he's gotten a little better. But he's got one album on a real label, so it's hard to characterize him as that yet. But
Right. Yeah, he has.
I like where his career's headed.
Oh, I do too. I think he's one of the most.
He's still young.
Oh, absolutely. He is very young. He's definitely in the conversation as one of the best younger guys coming up.
I think he's got a good shot.
Yeah, I think guys like him and Jid would be like two off the top of my head that I can think of. That
Jid's
really,
kind of old though. Jid's an old man.
How old is?
I think Jid's like 28, 29. So he's getting up there already. I mean, it's coming from a man who just turned 30, so I can't really talk my shit. Jid, this is not a diss. You're like one of my favorite rappers, but nonetheless, yeah, Jid's not a young rapper, even though like he's new to the scene kind of.
Yeah, that's kind of where I meant with it. Like
Yeah.
a more, yeah. And I didn't mean it like an age. I meant more like like kind of the newer age of hip hop. I think those are the two of the names that you could see as being.
I think Isaiah Rashad is mad slept on too.
But with Isaiah, the sample size isn't quite there. I mean, he only has the two albums, which I love both of them. Don't get me wrong. I think they're phenomenal. I think that Sylvia demo is one of the most slept on albums that I've ever heard. Like nobody talks about that one, and there's so many good songs on that. But in terms of, guys that are really coming up that are next, I would say, I mean, off the top of my head, probably YBN and Jid would be definitely at the top.
And I think that's like when you're talking pure rapper, but I feel like there's so many people who are doing the genre bending right now, like we were talking about today. But like you got like a guy like Smino who's just like constantly putting out good music, and no one knows what to do with them. Like, is he an R&B artist? Is he a rapper? Is he neo soul? Like, what genre is that? And that's something that I love about hip hop right now. Is like everyone's touching it, like, and not quite crossing the line, or they're stepping out of hip hop and just crossing the line into another genre. And I think that's really cool.
Oh, it's amazing, man. Like I love that too. Like the genre bending stuff is like we were saying. Like for example, I had you listen to the Dominic Fike What Could Possibly Be Wrong album that just came out this past Friday as we're recording this, and like that guy to me. When you want to talk about, like, I look at him almost because Post Malone was doing a little bit of this, like the John stuff. I like Post Malone personally, but I think Dominic Fike as a whole is a lot. I don't know. He's a little cleaner. He's a little bit more creative with some of the different.
I like how he brings in elements of rock music and like soul into his choruses and into like the ambiance. He does a lot of what an artist that me and you really like called Healy does. Is like there's like a lot of ambient sound in that album, and I think that's something that's really cool, is artists stepping back and letting space and letting things breathe. And a good way to accentuate that is by either like sampling sounds or bringing in voices, creating all that ambient sound. I think that's a really cool technique, and I like that in that album a lot. That album was great.
Yeah, because I know that you like great music, and that I thought it fit. Like again, it wasn't quite what we've talked about as some of our favorites. But, since we're big fans of Healy, like I love that. By the way, like not to jump to Healy real quick. when you posted Second Wind, I was like, this guy too? I was like, I thought I was the only one that knew this dude, or not the only one, but you know what I mean? Like every time
I've been an unapologetic Healy fanboy for a long time.
Oh, dude, some of the melodies that he plays with, especially in that Second Wind song, but just in general, like he just makes such good, like alternative
Yeah.
soul, hip hop driven tracks, man.
It's like it's the most easy listening music I know. Like if I'm on a beach or if I'm somewhere on with a drink in hand or just chilling outside, like I want Healy all the time, and I
Oh,
never get tired. I never get tired of it.
he's so good, man. Like
Yeah,
anybody that hasn't listened to Healy, definitely check him out. He got
for
this new
sure.
single called Second Wind that is just fantastic. He had an album called I think it was like
Sublux.
Sublux,
Yeah.
which is 2017, had a bunch of great songs on it. Actually, he made my top 50 songs of the 2010s. Unwind is one of my favorite songs of that decade for sure. Like I played that song probably so many times. I think my brother actually showed me that is where I found
Yeah.
him. And from there, I just kind of like went through the whole album and I was like, this guy's incredible.
Hmm.
And, you know, really excited to see like that he's putting out some quality music
Yeah.
now.
But the other song I really liked this summer from him was Nike's On. So if you're gonna look up Healy, definitely check that one out. In addition to Sublux.
Yes, yes, and of course the new one, Second Wind, is great too. But all those songs are, yeah. Nike's On is phenomenal, and Dominic Fike's another guy. Like I said, I've been on Dominic Fike since I got to shout out my boy Chewy, or Jared Vashon, aka Chewy.
Yeah.
He put me on to Fike with I can't remember exactly what the album's called or the EP, but there's a song called Three Nights off of it that came out, I want to say 2018, and it
Mhm.
was just again that genre bending, like indie sounding rock, but also had like some really cool neo soul, and even like it's weird. He's almost like a pop star, but he's like not really your average pop star. He's a little
Yeah.
bit more orthodox than that. So it's he like really doesn't fit a mold. He's really his own lane.
Yeah.
Like so many different influences I hear from Dominic Fike, whether you're talking about Frank Ocean, I hear instrumentally, I hear a little Tame Impala.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, I
challenge anyone to listen to that album and tell me what genre that is.
actually don't know. So I was talking to Chewy about this the other day because he texted me and he said, I hope you're listening to the Dominic Fike album today. And I said, oh, of course I am. And what I gathered is I just really think that he just has a great ear for like instrumental blends and like different progression. He plays with so many different sounds.
Absolutely great instrumental selection on there too. I need to dig into producer credit or if that was all like recorded in studio or how he worked with that. But that's something I need to look up because the production was absolutely superb. And I know he's got Columbia Records backing, so that doesn't hurt at all. But at the same time, it's high quality music all the way through.
It absolutely is. And with me, like how I described it, I guess genre wise, I said indie pop with like a mix of hip hop and even funk and like
Yeah.
a little bit like alternative rock. But Chewy, shout out him again. Like his one liner that kind of did it for me is he said it's perfect Sunday morning music, and I kind of agree.
Yeah.
It works well in that favor, but
Agreed.
I think it's super playable and versatile in like really any setting. So I'm a huge Dominic Fike fan right now. He made my number 4. Politics and Violence was one of the singles off that album. It's my number 4 song of the year so far, at least at my mid-year list.
Sure.
Is where it, and I just and I also love just the fact that when he was on Peach with Brockhampton or Kevin Abstract, that song was amazing too. That's kind of where I solidified it for me.
Yeah.
So besides Healy and Dominic Fike, I know I just got you onto Dominic Fike today. So I'm interested though, what are some other like under the radar artists that you like, or like artists that you don't think most people listen to?
Yeah, so I listen to a lot of underground music in general. I actually spend a huge amount of time in the beat community. I love producers and I love listening to production for production's sake. Um, but I'm gonna start with a rapper. I don't know if you ever heard of him. Dude named Juicebox.
I haven't heard Juicebox, so I'm gonna have to write that.
Juicebox is, I'd say, another one of those who's really pushing the envelope as far as what genre is this. he's got a background in like I think he played for a rock band for a while, and uh, look up the song Egyptian Pools by Juicebox, and you'll see what I mean. It's just really uh, it's it's genre bending music. You never heard anything like it. Another one that's from him that's a story is a song called Donna.
Oh wow.
Uh, and you might need to really like you might need to check out SoundCloud to find that one. That's an older one, but dude, Juicebox is some good shit. Um, let's see. I'm gonna try to get a little bit more mainstream than that because that's way off the deep end over there. From a production standpoint, I'm really into a producer named Prices, Pryces. He actually produced a song on my album, but he does a lot of I'd say like borderline EDM stuff in his modern iteration, and I'd call it like chill trap almost. Like it's
Trap soul a little.
yeah. I really like that I like lo-fi beats a lot.
Mhm.
But I really like lo-fi beats that still slap. And that's the reason that I work so much with the producer Flapjacks. That I'd say that's really what he is. It's weird. It's weird sounds. It's lo-fi sounds, but it really slaps.
Yeah,
Uh,
his production on your album was great, man. I love those. Are some of my favorite tracks. Were
yeah,
the ones that he did, man.
yeah. He's a talented cat. Um, I'm trying to think of if we're going a little more mainstream here. Like I said, big Jid fan, big Deontay Hitchcock fan.
Yeah,
I don't think I can go this year without mentioning Coda, because I think Coda put out one of the best albums of the year. I know we're not quite on the same page with this one. We've talked about this before. I know you like Coda's album, but I think Coda's album is special. And to go on a little Coda tangent as well, I have so much respect for a guy who would get offered a record deal and say no and be so outspoken that the reason that he's not accepting a record deal is because um, the the music industry has used that to screw black artists for hundreds of years, and I think that's an incredible thing to take a stand on, and then follow it up, dropping an album like that, and getting the results that he is, and getting the numbers, and getting the recognition. He deserves a lot of credit for drawing that line in the sand, and also for putting out music like that. So yeah, a lot of love for Coda.
no, with Coda, I really enjoyed that album quite a bit.
Uh,
Um, I can't see again. Yeah, we differ a little bit on that. I can't say it was like my favorite album of the year, but
yeah,
it is one that I have gone back to. I do see some replayability with it, and I think I do encourage anybody that likes lo-fi hip hop or very soulful jazzy hip hop.
yeah,
That's an
yeah.
album that you can definitely get behind. He kind of reminds me a little bit of that album reminds me like a little bit of Boss's Milky Way in that sense.
Yeah,
It has a similar vibe. I can't say it's like it's not exact. I'm not comparing it by any means, but
yeah,
just to kind of give people an idea. If you haven't heard of Boss, then that obviously
yeah.
that comparison means nothing to you. But you
Yeah.
know,
Well, Boss is on that album too. So if you want to kill two birds with one stone,
there you go. It's very
yeah,
true. Yeah, that BQE track is
yeah,
fantastic.
it is. That song is a banger. And
Fantastic.
I mean, we could go on about Joey Badass, but I thought that was really cool that Coda put on like a three Brooklyn a little three Brooklyn single there. That's a cool collab to me.
Oh yeah, no, that's probably one of my favorites on the album for
Yeah,
sure. Is that track. Um,
yeah.
Curious.
I like Away Park, man. That song touches my soul.
I can't actually remember that one now off the top of my head.
Yeah.
How that one goes. No, that's a great project though for anybody to check out. I think that it's definitely up there as one of the better
Yeah.
projects I've heard this year for sure.
I really like the Saba project. I like Saba in general. His whole body of work. Saba's, I'd say, like in that. I think we've kind of moved to that step before mainstream right now, or just breaking into mainstream. And Saba is dope.
I love Saba, man. I really do. I think he's phenomenal.
Yeah,
That really, like you said, that whole camp. I love Smino.
yeah.
That Noir album has really, really
Mm.
grown on me for sure.
And I don't think you can talk about those guys without talking about No Name either, because No Name's kind of tied up with them. And No Name's, I mean, on top of what she's doing for the African American community right now, is an absolute poet. She is a poet who raps. She's not a rapper.
Oh, she's been, I would say, I would argue, one of the most poetic hip hop artists that we've heard
Mm-hmm.
in quite a while. In terms of
Yeah,
like, if you
she's
go,
a poet.
yeah, she's a poet who just happens to make music out of it. In my opinion, I totally agree with that. If you hear her last album, I think it's like the first track.
Yeah.
It is literally a slam poem.
Mm-hmm.
It's so good, just the way that she's able to use that rhythm to really you just gotta go listen to it. It's so good. And then she has I think the next second track is like black exploitation or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, again, she's been a artist that, and I know you and I had talked about the J. Cole and No Name situation,
Yeah.
and we talked about it on the show. I mean, it was one of our opening warm up segments for one of our past Boston artist reviews. But
Uh,
No Name, what she can't get, hasn't gotten enough credit for, is being an advocate for black equality and the systemic racism that we inevitably do see in America still.
yeah.
She has been an advocate for that for a long time,
Mhm.
and I think you're starting to like see that passion from her. You know what I mean? Because she feels like we
Yeah.
can't lose momentum with it now, right? Because she's
She also smells blood right now. She's on the attack, and like I don't blame her. That's how I'd be too.
oh yeah, no, I agree. I think that she had her in her own right. She was very she didn't even do it in like an articulate way. I think our non-articulate way. It
Mhm.
came from like you said, a place of passion.
Yep.
Her to stand up and be like, and the self-awareness too, right? Like I give her that. Like, she's like, I am not a J. Cole, I'm not a Kendrick Lamar. Like, I
Yeah.
need you guys to like break that barrier for me,
Yeah.
like, and she's been an artist to do that, you know what I mean, in the last
Yeah.
couple, and I hope people give her more attention.
I wanna talk about something kind of related to that. Now that you brought that up, is I think from J. Cole's perspective, I don't want to get into this whole beef again, but I understand where J. Cole's coming from, because I think your number one responsibility as an artist, especially one who's a poet, is to see the world, not change the world. Your goal is not to be preaching. And while I think there's a place in that for music that it backs a movement, or political music, I don't think that's the first responsibility of a poet in their music. I think for sure they need to be advocating for that outside of their music. But I don't think there's a responsibility for any musician to make songs about that.
No, and I see it even in the sports world too. I mean, because I know we both coached. Like, I don't see it as a, because I know the NHL got a huge backlash for that nobody was kneeling during the anthem, and then
Yeah.
they obviously,
You try kneeling on ice.
well, that's true too. I was like, first of all, since when are we looking to the NHL for social reform?
Right?
And I mean, obviously, like, there were some people out there that were outraged with them. Some people that were on the other side being like, oh, like, hockey's now my new favorite sport. And like, I think there's a lot of people in the middle though that are going just like, one, who really cares, and it doesn't really matter either way what the NHL does. But on the flip side of that, I think they don't have an obligation to, or a responsibility to do that. In my eyes, it was always just kind of like, it would be nice if the NHL did something. They have a platform, like, they should
Yeah.
use it. Are they wrong if they don't? Not necessarily, but
Yeah.
I am just happy that they did, and that they did it. And I loved actually what they did. I thought
I think the NBA has done a hell of a job, both just in their restart and in what they've done addressing racial tension and the whole movement right now. They've done a really classy and elegant job of it.
The NBA is the poster child for not only how to run sports during coronavirus, but even more so, because this is the one that matters the most, is the social reform. Like, I
Yeah.
think Adam Silver has done an
Yeah.
incredible job to give these guys not only a platform, but the ability to speak out about what they
Yep.
believe, what they feel, and what they want to change. And I love how, the players got the options to do, do the sayings over the back. I find myself watching the NBA trying to look like, ooh, like who put what on their back of their jersey? Like, you know what I mean? Like I
It's
saw.
fun to try to guess who's scoring now too. You're like, oh, social reform with a bucket from deep. Like, who is that? You're like, oh, that's Mo Bamba. How did I not see that?
Oh
Oh,
man,
it's so funny.
no, it's cool to see them all. Like I know a lot of the
Yeah.
majority of lives matter. Like I know that's Tatum's got that on the back. I liked Gordon Hayward picked. I thought education reform is a really
Yeah.
cool. I'm definitely an advocate. I know you are too. That we're both advocates to continuously create a better educational system in any way that we possibly can for the students we have now, and then the next generation of students. That's really going to be
Yeah.
the people that are going to continue to push these social changes, man. Because like I don't mean to be cynical like this in any way, shape, or form. I just don't see in our lifetime that it's going to like get it to where we quite want to be. I think we're going to, in our lifetime, we're going to see the steps that are going to get us there. It's going to be the generations coming up that are really going to be able to create that change. I mean,
I think we, as you say, especially as educators, it's our responsibility to push this forward as best as we can.
Absolutely.
And especially so, I think it's an easy conversation, not an easy conversation to have, but it's a conversation that kids are ready for at the high school age, and it's a really delicate matter for kids my age, the age that I'm teaching. So, but that's something that's really important to me as an educator, and I'm still trying to learn how best to approach that from an early childhood standpoint. But I'm working with a group of teachers to try to do my best to figure out how to approach this.
Right.
And I think we have to write this. We have to figure out how this goes. Like no one's done this the way that it needs to be done before. So we need to be the ones to do it.
Yes. Oh, I agree with that. Like, I don't think that we have I agree with that 1,000%. Like, I don't think we have the responsibility to make all the necessary changes, but we do have a huge responsibility to instill the right mindsets, really the right frameworks for what this could look like 20, 30, 40 years down the line. I really, in my eyes, to me, it is a responsibility for us, as young as we can kind of start to instill it. Again, I know it's a touchy thing. It's interesting, difficult when the kids are a lot younger, but if you are instilling some of those things as early as you can, I think will help. I mean, I think just for kindergarten, just for example, right? Like, I think that something like this helps is just reading books, potentially like children's books. There's a ton out there in different cultures and different perspectives. I think like, that's something I'm looking to do. And I talked about this a little bit when I was on Tempa's own podcast, your Max, his podcast. But my senior curriculum I'm making is mostly centered around non-white male authors, because it just in my 5 years teaching, I've kind of tend to notice, and not everywhere, this is definitely not everywhere, but a vast majority of the literature, I can only speak to this from my high school experience, that a vast majority of it was really written from either a white male perspective or less so a white female perspective. So I think that there needs to be a little bit more, especially in English, what I teach. Like, I think getting, like, you obviously love stories. So I think getting some of these stories out there is really important. And I think it would be great to see for kids, as young as you can, just again, you don't have to get political with it. You don't have to, talk about the actual rooted, like, Black Lives Matter issues or, social reform or anything like that. If you just, I think, read to them different perspectives from different types of people, that in itself is gonna, when you plant those seeds early, hopefully they'll grow into something and they'll be able to, you know, it'll the stuff, once they get to me, basically, right? Like it'll become a lot more accessible and it'll be that foundation will be there. But that foundation's not there, right now I think just in the educational system in America personally. Like I just don't
Right.
see it right now. I think we're working towards it. I think we're having the right discussions about it right now, but we can't, like No Name is saying, we cannot lose momentum. And I think that is in really, in essence, the important thing here.
Got to push.
Yeah. I think that it's more important now than ever. So I'm curious, what are your thoughts on, like, artist and producer interactions? Like, I'm not really in the music scene. So, and I've always wanted to kind of get a feel for this. Like, what does that process look like in terms of, working with producers? Cause I know you worked with a bunch of different producers on your album. So, maybe talk to me a little bit about, like, how you kind of got to find the producers that you worked with. What are some of your favorite producers to work with? Some of the favorite producers that you like to listen to? Really just the interaction in the music industry as a whole.
Well, I'll go back to the beginning, and that when I first started making rap music, I would just try to find a beat on YouTube. I would download it, and then I would try to make a song. And it was a while till I started, posting stuff. Then I got kind of involved in the SoundCloud community, and I started back when SoundCloud was the thing. That's like an old fat. That's like saying Blockbuster at this point. Like people are like, "What's he talking about?"
I don't know, man.
Yeah, SoundCloud's still like in the background, I guess. But
yeah.
So I started seeing, like, okay, there's these producers who are really good and they have a lot of followers, and I'd like to work with them. How do I go about this? And my first thought was, okay, I'm just going to use their music. And then I realized, like, that's not the way to go about this. They're taking time to make something. They're putting their time and effort into it. So I'm going to hit up every single producer from now on that I want to use a beat from, and I'm going to compliment them. I'm going to say, I love your beat. Like, let's see how this goes. The long and short of it, and it's still this way today, sometimes they want to work with you and sometimes they don't. Sometimes you get ignored, but, like, you got to respect whatever a producer does, because they're putting in time and effort. They're working really hard, and it's your responsibility as a musician to respect wherever they go with that. So I've been fortunate to work with some great producers this year who I would say, like, have far more clout than me, and that's awesome. Like, I love the opportunity to do that. But at the same time, I've worked with a couple producers who are quote unquote nobody. Like, they have less followers than me, or they have no one, and that, or like however you want to measure those things, less streams, and that shit doesn't matter. At the end of the day, I'm looking for good production, and I'm going to treat the guy with 200 followers or 100 follower on Instagram the same way as I treat the guy with 5,000, 10,000 followers on Instagram. If I like your beat, I'm going to tell you I like your beat and I want to use it. Tell me how this is going to work. And if the dude with 20 followers says, I want $40 for this and I really like the beat, I'm going to pay him $40. If the dude with 10,000 followers tells me, you can have this beat, I really like your music, then I'm going to say thank you and make a song on that beat. It doesn't matter. So at the end of the day, if you are paying for a beat, then you should communicate with the artist or with the producer about what you're paying for. So whether it's an exclusive, that means that you're the only one who can use that beat. Usually there's more or less restrictions as far as how many streams you can use, how much you can do with that. Or if it's a lease, there's other artists that can use that beat. There's tighter stipulations on how many streams you can get or what you can do with it. But it's just super important to have those conversations with producers. It's not a grab and take and use type system, and that's the way that it used to be. And it used to be a song was, I don't want to throw Lil Wayne under the bus, but since we were talking about him earlier, it used to be a song by Lil Wayne, and you had no idea who the producer was. You just said that's a song by Lil Wayne, and it's time that's not the way we do things anymore. That the producers consulted with, that they're considered an equal in that track. So generally, what I do is if a producer gives me a beat for free, I split royalties with him 50-50. And if a producer makes me pay, then I communicate with him how much he'd like as far as royalties or what he or she thinks is fair. And I think that's the way it's got to be across the board. And I'm sick of seeing producers being taken advantage of by vocalists. I'd like that to stop.
I love, dude.
But I just went on a rant.
No, dude. It was all love. I just wanted to just tell you like how much I love that approach, because you're actually not the first person to tell me that. There's definitely a general feeling that oftentimes producers, unless you're one of the big names, if you're Metro Boomin or really whoever else you want to really throw in that T minus, right? Whoever you want to put in that category, a lot of times.
Yeah.
Even if you're that big of a producer, there's a lot of times you get overlooked, right? Like, I mean, it's more like you really think more about the artist when you hear a certain song than the producer a lot of times. And the producer doesn't get that, that front face, you know what I mean? Like they're not the face of that song a lot of
They're not on the album cover.
1,000%. And so I agree with you. Like, producers, might be the most charitable and like giving people in the business, because, and they're creating all these beats that artists are getting inspired by, especially if you're not somebody that's, really can't make a lot of beats yourself, or you're not really, you're not in that do-it-yourself zone with the beats. It's one of those things where, you're right. We have to give producers a little bit more of some credit, especially now, because the instrumental is as important as the execution of the song lyrically and melodically and all that.
What it comes down to is I can't make a song if I don't have an instrumental. I write my songs to my instrumentals. I don't write and then put them to an instrumental. So I need to hear your song even to make that song become a reality. So you asked me to also shout out a couple of great producers that I work with this year. So I'll do that right now. Kick Tracks, you know that track very well. He's dope. Really lucky to work with him. Sleepover, he produced my song Gumbo Eyes. He's more on the lo-fi side, and he's a lo-fi artist that I really really enjoy. Mentioned Flapjacks, Piper Beats, big part of my album. He produced both the title track and the single, so definitely owe him a lot. And then someone who's a little bit more under the radar than those other guys is my homie Matt Sear. He's a close friend of mine, and he did a couple of the beats, especially like the interlude beats on my album. But he also mixed and mastered the vast majority of it, and mixes and masters the vast majority of my music. And people like that, I mean, what I do wouldn't be possible without those people.
Right. Oh, absolutely. It becomes like a collective effort. And I really love what you said too about, treating the artist that might have 20 followers the same as the one, or the producer, whether it's producer or artist, but treating the artist or the producer that has 20 followers the same as you would the one that has 100,000. Right. Yeah. And interestingly enough, I find that, with music especially, and I like your process a ton, because you listen to the music and you get inspired by the music and you want to write to the song or what you hear. Mm-hmm. I personally, if I was an artist, I feel like that's how I would do it as well. Yeah. But in terms of, I feel like with creating a song, I mean, again, I'm not an artist, so maybe I'm speaking out of turn here, but I feel like it's all about cultivating that energy that you want to cultivate. And let's say, with that producer that has 100,000 followers, right, or 100,000 streams a month or whatever it is, right, you might not even create that or cultivate that same energy or that energy you're looking for as you might with the producer or artist that has 20 followers. You know what I'm saying? So it's really all about, I think, the energy and the feeling of what you're getting and who you're working with. I think it's less to do with just like, you know, getting a beat from, if you got a beat from Metro Boomin, I mean, I don't know what it would do for me. You know, you would definitely get more
It
streams.
would be a good fit for me.
That's what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, just because, you know, somebody is bigger or they have, you know, more clout, as you said, right? Like that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be a good fit. It
Yeah.
has to be some kind of artistic vision, I feel like, in a sense, right? It like,
Yeah.
or
I need to
am
be
I
put
on?
in a mood. I need to be put in a mood as soon as I hear an instrumental, and that's the first test that it passes. And from there, I'll usually freestyle. And if I can't freestyle to it, that I'm not that good at freestyling, so don't make me freestyle or anything. But if I can't freestyle well to it or better than usual, then I know that it's not a good fit because it's really all about finding that cadence and seeing how my vocals, how is my intonation, how are the way that I end lines, how are all these things going to contribute to a track after it fits in a mood that I feel. And oftentimes, one of the interesting things that happens during that is while I'm going through that process, while I'm just kind of brain dumping, that's when a hook gets written, or at least the start of a hook. And it's amazing how often that happens. You just come up with something catchy, and then you start repeating that, and then you're like, wow, this is kind of cool. And that's how a lot of my hooks get written, right there on the out of the box. Like I remember hearing what's the difference beat the first time, and I was just like, I said, what's the difference to myself? Like I remember just like I think I was rapping it even. I was like I wasn't even like close to what the song became, but you get in that mode, you hear a phrase that like works well over that instrumentation, and you're like, what can I do with this? And that's how a lot of songs start getting written. But for me, for me, the producer not only is giving me a beat to be a platform for my writing and my vocals, but they're also inspiring me to write a song. So I feel like I owe that to the producers in general to respect them, to show them love, to shout them out, to give them their money when they want their money. Like, it's that's something that I'm not cool with, is people taking advantage of producers.
Yeah, and you know, it's like anything. Like, you know, we need producers to, like you're saying, create and cultivate the sounds that, you know, inherently inspire artists. And you know,
Yeah.
without them, you know, the music industry doesn't quite work the same way. You have to
Mm-hmm.
rely on yourself to make your beats, and if you're not instrumentally or musically inclined, definitely gonna be a challenge. Absolutely.
Yeah.
We're getting samples cleared and things like that, so it becomes a whole new ball game. And
Sure.
that's so yeah, producers are vital and definitely don't get as much credit as they deserve. Which, and again, you aren't the first person to have brought this up to me, but
Yeah.
on or off air. But it really, you're speaking a great sentiment, and I think that is a great message for all people in the music industry hearing this now or whenever,
Yeah.
to really keep that in mind, that is inherently a place that, you know, as artists and as really just all people of the music scene, we have to you know, support our producers for sure. uh,
Yeah. And I think that's another reason that I so much appreciate what like the lo-fi music scene is doing right now in general. On the beat side, there's a huge community here in Boston that during regular times will do shows, and I'd say like people who are involved or associated with the lo-fi community are really kind of confused by the term lo-fi itself, because it means everything and nothing at the same time. Like there's no real meaning to the term lo-fi. It just means the way that people have labeled it. It means either jazz influenced, softer drums, dissonant sounds. All those things contribute to what people call quote unquote lo-fi. But whatever the case may be, the fact that that platform of quote unquote lo-fi hip hop listeners is given both Boston and the United States and the world is the opportunity for beats to stand alone, and that's something that's going to keep driving forward. So I'm excited to see the continued growth of that, and it's taking off like crazy right now, and I love to see it.
Absolutely. I love that. I agree. I think the Boston music scene is, and really just the Massachusetts music scene as a whole is
Yeah,
a great place. I think we're thriving, and I think that it's not going to take that much longer. And maybe I'm wrong, but maybe this is just being a little bit um a little bit too naive here, but I really do think that Boston's in the right direction. And Matt, like I said, Massachusetts as a whole. I actually
yeah.
want to ask you quick. One of my second to last questions was your time in the Boston music scene for now, at
Oh
least.
shit, you're gonna make me cry, dog.
Oh God, I know. This is our first guest that's gonna cry. Is it you? Is it gonna be? We haven't had a cry
Yeah,
oh yet.
we're good. Let's go.
All right, you could fake some with that water if you wanted to. Just
Yeah,
just
yeah. Put a
yeah,
little there.
a
Yeah.
little bit. So in terms of Boston and Massachusetts as a whole, throw me some artists and producers that really have been either your favorites, throughout your time here in Boston, or
Yeah.
or that are your favorites right now, or whether it's listening to them or working with them or seeing them live or whatever the case is.
No doubt. Big shout out to a couple of the first people here. Loman. Loman's producer. He owns the hat I'm wearing here. Not the hat. This is my hat, but I bought it from Loman at Union Sound Shop in Somerville. Loman is very much become like a hub for the beat community in Boston, and for a lot of local rappers in general. Working both, he's a great producer. You should check out his beats in general, but also just in his contribution to the local scene, and giving the scene like a place to really thrive. And in a different in that same light is Razen, Rahzen. Razen is he founded the show Nightworks. I don't know if you've heard of the show, but it's a Boston-based beat show. Usually ends with some ciphers, and they've attracted some producers who are out of this world talented, and some people to Boston that I never thought I would see in person. Those people who are really that's where the most of my appreciation from the Boston scene goes to, is the people who are really pushing the scene forward as a whole. And I think that's something that I really loved in my time here, is seeing how many people show up for that and show out for that, and how much love there is and support for other artists, and how we're all pushing each other to get better. So that's definitely something I'll miss about the scene here, is just getting together, those beat shows, and it sucks that it had to end in 5 or 6 months since I've been able to do those things, and we've all been able to do those things. So I would have loved to have a few more of them, but um, it was awesome while it lasted.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like I was just starting to get into like the scene when I feel like it hit like really, like I
Yeah,
don't even mean just like, surfing the web and finding it, you know what I mean? Or Spotify
yeah,
or Instagram, whatever. Like, I mean, actually like going out to the shows and like
yeah,
seeing what we have in the city and in the state for sure. So no, I think there's a ton of talent here. I mean, just go look at our night school playlist. I mean, on Spotify,
yeah.
you'll find,
And I was really focused on the producers right there, but there are some incredible rappers in the Boston area too. I encourage you to check out Kadeem. I don't know if you know Kadeem, but he's dope. Uh, I'm friends personally with Hero, who I know is a friend of the show also.
absolutely.
So
We
uh,
Hero and Stewie Gray and all those guys, the bars over bars guys are definitely doing some good things.
yeah, they're pushing the scene, and they're younger guys, so that's good to see too.
Yes.
Um, and um, I mean, you could go all the way up to Joyner Lucas, and back down. So there's people all over, from mainstream to semi-mainstream to just starting to make a name for themselves, who deserve credit. And I want to see you all. I want to see you all make it. That's the biggest thing. Like, I don't want to make it more than I want to see you make it. Like I want to do it all together. Let's all go out there and get our bread.
Dude, I agree, and I feel like, you know, that's coming together. I think it's starting. I really do, and
Yeah.
we have some things in the works over here that I hope are going to be what do it. I can't speak on those things quite yet, but because we're still.
Oh man,
But
the international man of mystery.
yes, I actually I love Austin Powers. Those are one of my some of my movies growing up for sure. So, but my man, you've been amazing this whole episode. You have given us and our listeners some amazing gems for today. I'm so blessed to have you here, and I'm so grateful that, you know, you were able to give the Boston music scene as much as you did. And I mean, just because you're relocating does not mean that we're not going to still rock for you, man, and everybody here. Like, we're going to keep pushing for you.
Yeah,
And
man.
absolutely, like you said.
On my end, this is it. Like I'm never talking to you again. I'm losing your number.
Lose my. Hey, I thought we were at least I thought good acquaintances, if not friends, right? Friends.
Yeah, we're there. We're there. I'll be in touch for sure.
Did I not read the room right? I thought, you know. My final question. It's.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not really. It was a surprise earlier on in quarantine when it wasn't really a thing. Now it's a thing. Everybody knows it's coming. The dream song scenario. Okay. For those of you guys that are just joining us and have never been here, we ask our artists that come on the show the same ending question. If they had a dream song, if they could make a song with any artist, dead or alive, producers as well are into this, what does that song look like? Who is on it, et cetera, et cetera. Structure it for you. Producer or a few producers if you want different instruments or different sounds from different people. So you couple of producers if you want a few. You also get someone to do the hook for your track, and you 2 guest verses, and then you get a verse. So we're calling it a traditional song. So your dream song scenario, let's start with producers because that's where you start. We have to start there. So go.
All right. I'm gonna act surprised about this question. Like, oh, I didn't see that coming. But I've seen enough of these to know that this was coming. So I'm somewhat prepared for this.
I love it.
But this is what I got. So I'm the actual sticks. Like I want Jay Dilla. Or do you know who New Jobbies is?
Oh yes, I think didn't Logic talk about them being like a big influence for him? I want to say on his last album.
Look, I'm not going to get too much on this because I've already gone on an absolute rant about producers. But look up New Jobbies, and you won't be disappointed.
Really good.
Yeah. So I'd go some combination of New Jobbies and Dilla, both dead unfortunately. So I don't have that going for me. But I'm gonna amplify that with giving them Masego and Thundercat. So we're gonna get some sax on this. We're gonna get some Masego like vocal layers. So I'm not adding Masego to my hook per se, but he's just gonna give some like airy vocals to that, and Thundercat is gonna rip the bass.
Oh. And Masego, hopefully, like you said, he's doing sax too.
Oh yeah. Masego's primarily there for the sax. I just want a little bit like I just want some breathy vocals on there too from Masego.
Oh, for sure. No, I'm with you. Masego's great.
Yeah, but Masego's there for his saxophone. Thundercat's there for his bass. I don't know if you've seen Mac's Tiny Desk, but maybe I'll put him on like the triangle or the bells or whatever he was playing on that one song. That was hilarious.
The great Tiny Desk, man.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah. So Thundercat, Masego, Dilla, New Jobbies. That's what's going into my beat. A lot of effort on the beat.
I love that.
So I kind of double and triple dipped on the beat. So I'm gonna scale it back a little bit on the vocalist.
Okay.
I'm going Lauryn Hill on the hook. And I'd also like probably like a little transition verse from Lauryn Hill, like a little singy rap type thing.
Okay.
So I want Lauryn Hill singing on the hook. Then I want a J. Cole verse. Then I want a Lauryn Hill like out. I don't even know how to say that, like an interlude. And then I want another Lauryn Hill chorus, and then I want to spit the last verse.
So we're okay. So we're going a lot of Lauryn Hill on the vocals.
Yeah, yeah. Lauryn Hill's going to play a big part in this.
Wow, dude, that would be if you could. If I mean, we always talk. If you could actually cultivate that and make that really, that's part of this. We're trying to speak these things into existence, right? For all you guys to make it right and
Oh God. Well,
get.
first of all, you got to revive two dead producers. So good luck.
I mean, there's always posthumous stuff. You could, I'm sure, like, for like $1 million, get like a verse. You know, I mean, excuse me, or like some kind of beat potentially, or stem from a beat, right? And
Look up Nujabi's their work with the specifics.
okay, I haven't heard any of that with them.
It's good, but I digress.
Yeah, that Feather song, like I said, from them is really great. And yeah, I've always been a Lauryn Hill fan. I love Lauryn Hill, and I think she would fit. I've always wanted Lauryn Hill, J. Cole. That I thought that would always have been.
It's so natural. They belong together.
Yeah, I feel like that would work so well. And then Thundercat on the bass. I mean, doesn't get much better than that.
Yeah, I just want a little texture. You know, Thundercat really mixes things up.
Yeah, you got to have the texture there.
I love instrumentals that have some quality of they were produced and some quality of the live instrumentation, and that's something that moving forward, I'm hoping to do more of in my music. I want more live instruments.
Yeah, the live instrumentation. Circling back to this a little bit, you know who I saw that weirdly enough had a great live instrumentation behind them when I saw them perform was Smino.
Smino, yeah, I could see him killing that.
It was awesome. It was really cool. Yeah. Like Earth Gang opened for them at the time when I saw them, and they obviously Earth Gang did their thing. They're incredible, and then
Earth Gang's great.
And so some of the best performance you might see on stage is Earth Gang. I'm telling you right now, if you're a hip hop fan, especially. But it was so cool to see Smino actually have a live band behind him because I didn't quite expect that out of him. But I loved it. I thought it really made for an awesome performance. And I would love to see more hip hop artists do that. I think that would be really cool to have, like, not just like a DJ, someone doing, or doing the beats and things like that. I would really love to see like live instrumentation or hip hop artists utilize that a lot more.
Once we start talking performing again, that's going to be one of my first goals, is to try to get some people together who can put this album into live instrumentation, because I think it's very possible.
Oh, you mean this album?
Yeah, you got it.
We both got it. I love it. We both got the physical copies on him. Yeah, well, guys, like I said, I mean, if this this episode has not sold you on Virgil, I'm not sure what will, but this album will definitely sell you even further if you haven't heard it. This is Timelines, Virgil's brand new debut album. It is out everywhere now. Virgil, tell the people where they can find you on Instagram and socials.
Yeah, absolutely. On Instagram, check out Virgil Raps. And I'm not even going to bother wasting any more breath. You can find anything that you need to find on there. We'll keep it short and sweet.
We'll link it all in the description for you as well. We'll link the album and the Instagram page, Virgil's Instagram page. There you can find out all about, his new adventure in Florida from there, and everything he's done in the past with in Boston and Massachusetts as a whole. The album is amazing, guys. Definitely go check it out. And Virgil, thank you so much for a wonderful episode. I am really excited that we got to sit down and do this before you left. But and best of luck in Florida, and we will still be repping you up in the Northeast. That is no question about that.
Absolutely, really appreciate the time, man, and it's been a pleasure.
Really has, man. Really has, and I appreciate you. And best of luck with the new school year, and regardless of what that looks like. And I love to see somebody that's in hip hop doing something, really to give back to the community as a teacher and a coach. And like as a teacher and a coach, it just, it really makes me happy to see that. So best of luck to you in that as well.
Thanks so much, man.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Guys, thank you for an amazing episode. You can find us at Turntable Teachers on Instagram. We can find all of our other interviews on our website, www.turntableteachers.com. Thank you guys so much for tuning in today. and this week, and we will be back next week with a brand new episode. But for now, I'm Mike. This is Virgil with the Turntable Teachers. Class is dismissed.
Turn,